Welcome back to Utterly Unfiltered with Cara and Tash. You.
Are we saying that we're officially doing the you?
Well, the thing is that the podcast can't see us, so they just hear us say you, and there's not much context there, really, is there?
So perhaps not. We'll go with it for now, right?
Yes.
We'll run with it.
Yes, we will. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is why we're not drinking any pins this time around, which we thought was a good thing, but I think liquid confidence is sometimes not a bad idea.
I'm so tired today as well that my brain is just not with it, but it has to be because we've got a good old filming day today and I want to be my best self for you guys, so I have to just pull myself together and realise that, people don't need sleep.
People don't need sleep.
Sleep is overrated.
Right? We can just vampire our way through lives.
Oh my god!
Oh, what? Are you a vampire? Are you? I thought that you were. I had suspicions.
No, huge update. I watched Twilight. I know.
All four of them?
Just the first one so far, but we're going to watch the rest of them as well.
There might be 5, right? You don't know.
I don't know.
Ooh, what did you think?
Just, for one, I thought, why did I not watch this when I was a kid? Because I feel like I would have loved it. Mm-hmm. But for two, I do not understand why she likes Edward at all. And the bit that baffled me the most,
Oh, controversial.
The bit that baffled me the most is the bit where they're at prom and she's like, bite me right now, like make me into a vampire, like I want to spend forever with you. And I'm like, bitch, you've known this guy for like 3 weeks. And you're willing to live the life of a vampire, which means eating other humans.
Or animals.
But animals raw for the rest of your life, never sleeping, like being all pale and weird glittery, being like hunted down by other vampires. Like, what? I'm just so baffled by the fact she's like, yes, take me now, make me a vampire. Like, what?
Well, she knows what she wants.
No!
She's got a strong mind.
She's delusional is what she is. Pure delusion is happening.
High school love affairs though, when you genuinely
this
think
is what
this
Ali
person
kept
is
saying. He was like, imagine that you're like a 14-year-old girl watching this. This is why girls are obsessed with it. And I was like, I actually just know.
I think the fandom they took it pretty far, and I think young girls were getting t-shirts with like, bite me, Edward. Like that was literally a thing. Like take me, bite me, and not in like a cute little like a little nuzzle on the earlobe, but an actual like sink your teeth into my neck and turn me into a vampire.
Just in H&M for sale, like
Well, but they just like they're not the kind of vampires. They're very romanticized, but they're a little bit like. A bit nerdy, I think, compared to other vampires. So I'm a massive Vampire Diaries fan. Absolutely adored the fandom. But they are real vampires. Like, they don't just shine in the sun. They burn in the sun. Unless they wear like a little sun ring that protects them. I suppose they're also a bit...
That's magic.
They're also... It is magic. It is magic. It's magical. I wouldn't want to be... So are you team Jacob?
Well,
Werewolf,
we've only watched the first oh god, the first one?
Film,
thank you. What's it called when there's more than one?
Oh, it's then... Well, there's sequels and prequels and...
I don't know. The first one.
Yeah.
So the love triangle hasn't started yet. That I know is coming because everyone was always like, are you team Jacob or team Edward? And I was like, team not vampires. But anyways.
I think you're going to be a Jacob.
Oh, definitely.
You're going to be a werewolf.
Also because I love Taylor Lautner so much. He's so cool.
He is cool.
So automatically I'm like, you're just the best.
Have you seen all of the like memes on TikTok with Bella, with her character when she's... Oh no, it's Edward actually, when he's smelling her blood. And he's like... And he's going all like, he's panicking because...
When he's in science class?
Yeah. And I think, like, I'm amazed that you can watch it now and still enjoy it. Because I enjoyed it at the time because I didn't know better.
Yeah.
Now I know what acting is. And what script writing is. And I'm like, okay, cool, that was not the best franchise. I'm sorry, it's another controversial opinion. But you were pretty scared of
I was scared of
supernatural in films, right?
Yeah, pretty much any film ever, honestly. Like, I didn't even watch Harry Potter until I was like 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like, never watched like Lord of the Rings or anything like that. But I have now, watched all the Harry Potters, all the Lord of the Rings, and now we're on to Vampire Diaries. I've gotten better. Oh my god, sorry, I'm yawning.
It's tough. It's been tough. Well, so what have you been up to that you are so exhausted today?
I've just had 3 or 4 now nights of bad sleep because I'm not in my own bed. So I've been in Norfolk since Wednesday, and I was up at the caravan with my friend for 2 nights, which was so lovely. We had the nicest time, but it has a tin roof. And it was about the windiest days that we've ever had this year in the UK. It was 54 mile per hour gusts of wind.
That's strong. On the coast, right? There's no protection.
It was insane. And so I was just getting woken up at like 3 a.m. by like it literally feeling like the entire caravan was about to just fly away. Which obviously it didn't. And it's attached to the ground. And it wasn't actually as windy outside as it felt inside. But oh my god, it was so loud, and then it was like chucking it down with rain, and I kept being panicky that because it's my parents' caravan, and I didn't put like away the pillows and stuff for the outdoor seating, and I kept being so panicky that like the plants were gonna fall over, the seat cushions were gonna fly into like the neighbour's garden or whatever. Like the cover is in like a box and have a lock on it, and like the box could be open and the cover could fly away, and then it'll never be back again because it'll be like a kite in the freaking wind. And you know when you're like in the middle of the night and you know you have to do something because it's like you can't stop thinking about it, so you can't go back to sleep because of it, but because it's the middle of the night you're not actually like logical enough to be like, let's go fix the issue because it'll go away once I fix it.
Right.
So I could have just got up at 3 o'clock, gone outside, put the cover on the bloody whatever it's called, and gone back to bed again, and I could have, that would have been over in 15 minutes. But instead, because it was 3 a.m. and my brain wasn't working that way, I was awake, tossing and turning for like 3 hours, worrying about whether this was going to happen or not.
Oh. So what did happen?
Nothing. They were fine.
Oh.
They were totally fine. But that was 2 nights in a row of that, because obviously, you know, I'm not smart enough to think to myself on the second night, well, why don't I, you know...
not make the same mistake.
Why not? Apparently, didn't think about that, did I?
I think you're just...
woke up at 3 a.m.
You're a sucker for self-torture.
Clearly.
I think that's what it is.
Clearly.
You've watched the Twilight, first one in the Twilight saga, and...
let's just make life
changed
hard.
You. Yeah.
Honestly. And then last night, I had 2 nights at home, and why didn't I sleep well the night before? Oh, because my boyfriend is at Reading Festival.
No way.
Yes.
Oh,
and he decided to call me on Friday night at 1 a.m. to tell me he'd gone to bed, which is great and everything. I'm glad he's texted me to tell me he's gone to bed, but a text would have been sufficient.
Yes, yeah.
Didn't need to ring me at 1 in the morning. And because it's an emergency contact, it obviously rings through, even though my phone's on silent.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, for God's sake, tell me all about his day. I'm like, okay, right, well, it's
good,
1 in the morning, so stop. And then, no, it gets worse, okay? I go back to sleep.
Does he call you again?
7:30 in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
He's woken up. It's morning time. He's up. He calls me thinking I'm up as well. I'm not up. It's 7:30 in the morning.
Is he camping? Was he camping?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, you don't sleep.
The sun,
you just don't sleep. You go to bed freezing and you wake up boiling.
Yes.
And it's bright as anything. Probably windy too. Right?
Yes, it has been. But also I think it's single layered, thin little tent. It's sunny out. Like you can't. It's just daylight.
So he's up ready to go.
Yeah.
You're trying to be in dreamland. Because you haven't slept for 3 nights at this point.
And he rings me at 7:30. For God's sake.
What we could do, is we could just nap for the rest of the podcast, and maybe like we'll find out some insights. Have you ever seen those like sleep apps where you can monitor your things like your heart rate and it tells you what dream states you're in and if you're sleep talking?
God, mine would have been rough the last couple of nights. Last night as well, I dreamt that I keep dreaming that I'm in like kind of like heist style movies, or like, you know, like really action adventure where you're all trying to escape and you don't know who the bad guys are and the good guys are, like very like Hunger Games style. Like that's been my dreams for the last few nights of not really sleeping.
What does that mean?
Honestly, I have no idea.
What does that mean?
It means that I'm not in my own bed in my own house and my body's like, fuck you.
I'm not sleeping. My boyfriend is calling me at silly o'clock in the morning and then again silly o'clock just a tiny bit later in the morning. And I just want him to leave me alone. But are you the main character? Do you have main character energy in your dreams?
Good question.
Are you badass? Do you survive?
Last night I was actually a wimp in my dreams. I was like full blown panicky wimp. It was so strange. It was like Oh God, I don't even know how to describe it. You know, you can like picture what your dream was, but it's really hard to like articulate it out loud. It was basically like all these people who kind of had like superpowers, different kinds of superpowers, and you couldn't tell who was the good guys and the bad guys, and you were like always waiting for the bad guys to arrive. And then everyone was like fighting each other, and like I was just so worried that everyone was going to die. And then my neighbour was in it as well, and we went to the supermarket together to distract me from the fact that
the world was ending.
The world was ending. So it was just a very odd dream.
So in the event of you know, doom and the whole universe imploding, you just go to the supermarket.
Just go to the supermarket.
That's very you. You'd probably be baking brownies and maybe making some cocktails if you're being a little bit like, if you're being having a wild time. What I would do if the world was ending.
If the world was ending, you're gonna move right.
Aww. That's a duet, isn't it? Maybe one podcast should be karaoke. We just sing to each other.
You want to hear me sing?
Tash and I used to think we were going to be in a band.
We did.
Called Crash
Unfortunately,
Landing.
only one of us had the talent, and it wasn't me. So...
Now it's a bit awkward. Look, I mean, you'd make a great roadie.
I could be a manager. I could organise the
You
set.
genuinely could.
I could do all that.
Why are you not my manager? Why are you not my manager?
I'm your co-host.
I tried to convince Tash's boyfriend to be my manager. This was the same day that we filmed the last podcast, and we had a little bit of liquid, you know, magic. And I was like, Ellie, you have to be my manager. You've got to do it. You'd be so good at it. And I think he was just like, to shut me up, he agreed. Does he remember that he agreed? I remember. I made him sign a contract in blood. No, I didn't. But I should have done. That'd be binding.
Oh, goodness me.
So, tell me how Funemployed has been for you. Can you update everyone and me? Because we haven't caught up for a couple of weeks.
Yes. Good question. Well, first... Yeah, so I've been Funemployed now for 4 weeks. 4 weeks of freedom.
Month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, almost. And I told myself when I quit my job that I would give myself an entire month to just decompress, to like work out what went wrong and why I just was so bloody miserable at that job, or just in working in general. And I was trying to like not put too much pressure on myself to find the answer straight away, because I've just finished my masters, and I don't like to not know where I'm going.
Yeah, it's an uneasy period of time, that transition phase. Yeah.
And I was just like, the best way I can do that is by taking a whole month of just not thinking about it at all. So that month isn't over yet. I actually have till the 1st. It's not over just yet. I have a few more days, another week. But this last couple of weeks, I feel like I honestly don't see myself going back to corporate work, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what other thing I will do, but I know I won't be doing that. And I was talking to my mum about this last night, and I was saying, like, obviously having done the podcast and everything, I've been looking into, like, marketing and, like, all these different, just building a brand, like, lots of stuff that I did do at my previous job, and that other people do, you know, marketing as their career, or social media marketing as their career for other companies. And I was saying to Mum, I was like, one of the biggest problems I've always had is that I'm not invested enough in the company that I'm working for to necessarily care about the outcome of my work. So there's no purpose. It's true.
No, that's a fair point.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah, and I liked the companies, you know, and I liked the products they were giving out, like selling, or the ones I was working for, but I'm not invested in them, you know. I don't genuinely really care. But with this I care, and so I've been putting lots of time and effort into it. And it's like, I could be doing this job, I could be I could work in marketing, I have the qualifications for it, for a different company, and help them and get paid a menial amount for it. Or I could work on marketing something for myself, get paid nothing to begin with, but if I ever do profit off of it, then that's all mine. And I'm doing the same amount of work, but for something I actually care about, rather than something I don't care about at all.
Sure.
And it's like, I actually feel like more and more so recently, I just don't really, I've become so detached from like the corporate world, or like how we're expected to like have a certain job, and expected to like make the way up the ranks, and expected to jump a salary band every couple of years, and expected to do all these things. But actually, in my brain, none of it works. Like, it's not true.
Yeah. It is a structure that's so embedded in society. And I was having a really interesting conversation. I was at a wedding last night. Of course, sometimes you get to that point in the night where you just have these deep conversations with very random people that you've never met before. I met this really interesting lady. I think she's in her 60s and she's from Canada but has lived all over the world. Works actually in developing cultures for companies. But she's also very spiritual. And she had she was giving me a lot of insight into her way of perceiving the world and the sort of money-driven society that we live in. And it's sort of those complex structures of that sort of the fear-based systems that we live within, and that everything needs to be revolving around money and profits and, like you say, and jobs and bandings and promotions. And we are tricked into that way of thinking because we're afraid that if we take a different path, that we won't profit. But ultimately, I think you don't anyway.
No.
This is the thing. It is, you are pretty much in debt your entire life. You're paying bills. You're always owing someone something.
Yeah. Student finance.
I mean, whether you have a great job or not, it's the same. You're actually no better. And
It's 100% true. And I felt more broke 3 months ago when I was changing job than I do right now with no job. I felt more broke because I was spending I had this lack mentality of like, whatever I was doing, I was never being paid enough because I was so miserable doing it.
Sure.
No amount of money was worth it. And I thought it would be when I got the next salary band and the next salary band, but it still wasn't. It still wasn't enough to counteract the misery it was giving me.
Sure.
And then I was spending so much more money because of that, because I was unhappy. So I would be dropping, hundreds of pounds on makeup and, plans, holidays, dinners at weekends or whatever, because I wasn't happy in my 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, 40 hours in my week. So I needed something to make me feel happy.
Like retail therapy.
Yeah.
And that's a thing.
Exactly.
That is a thing.
Whereas now, I've literally, I have my Amex bill, it came through yesterday. I spent £150 last month.
That's insane. That's amazing.
Like, that's it.
That's on, like, probably living.
Yeah.
Like, living,
It was, some petrol and, going up to the caravan with my friend. We did a shop and we went up to the caravan, but we made plans to eat in. So I went to the supermarket and we made really delicious food. And I went to Lidl and I got a really nice wine. And, like, we didn't go out to eat and we went to a cafe for a little cake and something. But, like, you can just drop so much money thinking you need a certain experience because there's nothing else giving you that joy in your life. But actually now it's like that joy is me hanging out with my friend, and I can do that on a budget and not feel like it's not extravagant enough or whatever, because it's not counteracting the fact that I'm miserable 40 hours a week.
Yeah. I think where the job dissatisfaction comes in, and when you talk about working for companies that you're not really invested in and you're not you feel like you're not ever being paid enough, and they could probably pay you more and more and more, and you'd probably still feel that way, because I think what it comes down to, or at least it does for me now, my perspective is I'm not just getting paid for my skill set, I'm getting paid for my time.
Yeah.
We have a limited amount of time on this planet. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Long or short, but either way, it's a flick in the universe, and you are getting paid on wasting your time doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So it's never probably going to feel like enough money, because you cannot be paid in monetary value for your time.
No.
You just can't.
No.
You can only
it's
be paid.
Invaluable.
You can be paid with experience and with your feeling well and achieving well-being and joy and happiness.
Yeah.
I think that is the only way you can be paid for your time.
Yeah.
It's the only way you should be paid for your time.
Yeah. You need that purpose. And it made
more sense in my head. In my head, I know what I mean. I'm also struggling to find words. But do you get where I'm coming from?
Yes.
It's like you're exchanging your time for money.
Yeah.
And I don't want to exchange my time for money. I want to exchange my time for happiness.
Because at the end of the day, you're left with a limited number of hours in your week and cash in your bank. And what does that even mean?
You can't take it when you're gone.
No.
Can't take it with you. That's also a song. That's another little karaoke that we could, but it's a rap song, so I will not treat anyone to that today. But I do 100% agree with you.
And I think it's a scary place because obviously everyone expects you to have a corporate job. Want to have a corporate job. It's what you should be doing, in quotation marks. That should is in quotation marks. And so even explaining this concept to other people, I've been very much like, I'm not interested in talking about it. I'm giving myself time off. Like, you know, I don't want to be quizzed on what my plan is next. How are you going to pay the rent? Blah, 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 all this stuff. That to me, I just think it's this fear mentality that you spoke about, this lack mentality. Yeah. It's like, I actually don't have to worry about that. Like, that is not important in my life. What's important is how I feel every single day. And like, I was telling my friend the other day, I was saying, you know, when I was working from home, so I even had the benefit of not being in the office. And still, I would get up in the morning, go to the gym. So I'd still get up at the same time every day because I go to the gym at the same time, which is at 7:30. So I get up at like 10 to 7. And I'd go there, I'd come back, it'd be about 8:45, and I'd either go straight to my laptop to log on, just to like check that everything was good, or I'd run into the shower. And if I went to my laptop to log on, I probably would stay at my laptop as well for like a couple of hours, and I'd just be sat in my gym clothes for a couple of hours. Or I'd run up to the shower quickly, run out, put some pajamas on or something, then go down to my desk and start work at 9. And then, you know, eat at my desk. I always worked through my lunch break. I was always dressed like absolute crap. Like literally sometimes if I had client meetings, I'd stick my glasses on and some lip gloss so I looked somewhat presentable. But a lot of the times I was wearing my pajamas. Like,
so top half.
Yeah.
That was the COVID thing, right? Top half, we look sort of socially acceptable. Bottom half, we are a mess.
Looks terrible.
Yeah.
But it just... there was no time. There was just no time in my day, and that was even without going into an office and having a commute or anything. And I didn't finish work until 6 o'clock, and then in the winter it's dark at 6 o'clock. So then, you know, you can't go out for a walk or anything, or that's why I used to go to the gym in the morning, because in the evening I just, never have the bloody energy because I'm so drained from half-assing a horrible job all day long. And you don't realise, I think, like how foggy your life becomes when you're in that constant cycle of like waking up doing the same thing every day, the Sunday scaries every Sunday, and you're dreading the next 5 days, like having to have something on at the weekend, and that comes back to the spending the money. I have to have something amazing to do at the weekend.
To get you through.
To get me through.
So you don't want to live life by just getting through.
No. The living for the weekend thing is so accurate, and I think that is just... But so sad.
It's the treadmill of life, and then you run, and you have to keep running because you're running.
Yeah.
And you can't stop running. But then you take time, and you're like, actually, the world carries on. Life doesn't stop.
No. It's actually not scary. Like, I don't feel, you know, stressed out about the fact that I don't have a job at the moment, or I have no idea what that next step is. I just feel like this was the right decision, and what will come next will be the right thing for me. I will make sure of it. I'm not going to just settle because I feel desperate to have some kind of thing on my LinkedIn that says I'm, you know, employed, so that I'm valuable to people.
Yeah.
Like,
but that is ultimately that challenging that perception of other people that has probably been ingrained into your own perspectives of the world. Because like you say, you know, from the moment you're born and educated and in degrees or jobs, you get told that the reward of money and title is what will make you valuable to society. Yeah. It really isn't. Maybe on a surface level, people will see that LinkedIn and they'll go, oh wow, look at what Tash has done. Yeah. She must be, you know, doing, but it's hard to fight that. It's really hard when you have comments, when people ask you what you do. So I'm still part-timing with OT in healthcare and doing music on the side. I did the same thing actually. I said I'm going to give myself a year, and if it doesn't work, I'll give up my dream. Yeah. And then the year came because I'm also quite structured. I think we've both been very structured in our lives, so to do the opposite is a bit daunting. Yeah. And also it doesn't work like that because my year was up and I was like, well no, I have unfinished business. I'm not going to stop. But people would ask me, what do I do? And I'd say for that whole year, I'd say, I'm a musician. And I'd feel great about it with myself because it felt very congruent to me. That's another thing we should touch on, by the way, is knowing what is right for you based on how it feels. And I think a lot of unhappiness and dissatisfaction comes from when you're doing things that aren't congruent to who you are. Another topic, another day. But people would often ask me, and I'd feel great about saying I'm a musician, but then their reaction would be, oh, well, what else are you doing? And you would get the sense that it was like, oh, I'm a musician. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. You could do that on the side. Kids these days don't work. I had someone actually tease me about it the other day, completely in jest, but they said, oh, you know, millennials, I'm actually a Gen Z by the way, but they're like, millennials, must be so nice to quit your job to pursue your passion, you know, like as if it's just fun and joyous and lovely and lazy. That's all the things that become associated with doing something that's a hobby or a passion and trying to monetize it and make it a career. Not monetize it, falling into the trap, but you see what I mean.
No, but it's true, honestly. I was thinking, another thing I said to Mum last night is the company I worked for last was around for 1 year, and then they hired me. So they are a company that, from scratch, built something, began monetizing it, because you do have to have some kind of money. I'm not saying we all can live like hippies and sleep in hammocks outside.
I mean, we could.
Maybe.
Shall we do it? Let's start a company. No, I know what you mean. Well, monetizing it is one thing, but I suppose it's not even to monetize it to make a huge profit at this point. For me, it's just so that I can keep doing it.
Yes.
And keep paying the bills, because ultimately, yes. Unfortunately, the way things work is we do live in a world where money is what gives you access to food and heating and water. So can't completely deny its value. But it's being able to take something you love and make that what allows you to live.
Yeah.
And then let it fuel you in more ways than just one.
So on that congruence piece then, what is that for you?
I have been exploring this very much myself. When I took that year out, I think I did it under the guise of music, but I was also very much on the treadmill. So did the school, straight to uni, straight to my first job, second job, third job, straight to this master's. Tash and I both did a psychology degree. Clearly we love thinking about the way that our minds work. I still haven't figured it out, you know. And I just needed time, and I think music was a great way to channel that and to be the thing that made me step off the treadmill. And it gave me a lot of time to think and soul search, and I'm still very much soul searching, but I have learned to identify at least what does and doesn't feel like it speaks to me and like it's at one with me. And music very much is. When I am performing or writing or singing, more so writing actually, that's when I feel it the most, that very much that authenticity of this is me and this is how I want to be expressing myself and how I want to be perceived. I want to be a musician. I feel like a musician.
Yeah.
When people say to me, what do you do? And I used to say I work in healthcare. I'm you know, this is not to discredit anyone who works in healthcare. I'm so much respect, but it didn't feel like that was me. I felt like when I say that I work in healthcare, I feel like a cog in a machine. I don't feel like Cara. I don't feel like that's me. And I suppose congruence is in every little decision too, not even in and I think you learn to trust yourself based on the little decisions. I think you learn even something as simple as, what do I feel like eating today? What do I feel like for lunch? And is that what I feel like? Or is it just what I think I should be eating? No, it sounds really trivial, but it's learning to follow your gut and trust that. And should I see that friend? Do I really feel like I want to? And it's being in the discomfort of, if you don't, learn to deal with the consequences, because if that's what you are wanting and your heart, and it's what your body is telling you, and your mind and your heart and whatever you believe, spirit, anything, it's going with it and trusting it. And I think you then learn that it's actually okay to follow your instinct.
Yeah.
Because nothing bad happens. In fact, good things happen.
I love that, and that's exactly what I've been on, honestly, myself these last couple of weeks, is finding that too, that what you said about, you know, what do I actually want to eat, like, or am I just doing something because I feel like that's normal? Those kinds of, that's exactly what I'm trying to be working on at the moment, like, what do I want to wear? Am I just wearing things
it's just
because...
learning yourself.
Yeah. It's
learning actually who you are versus just the habitual programming over years. Like, okay, I've had soup for lunch for about 3 years, so I'm just going to have soup for lunch, but no, actually... what do I feel like? What do I actually want? Because you do become in this like robotic cycle of just living every day. The same, that routine you were talking about. And actually, is that you?
And when you're brain fogged from working somewhere where you're not happy, it becomes so much harder to even tap into any of those things.
Yeah.
And like when I first quit, I was like, right, I need to work out who I am, because I have no clue. Like, I don't even know what I like and dislike. And then actually what I realised a couple weeks later, or more recently, is that actually I do know. I just have been brain fogged for so long that I've forgotten. I've forgotten who I am or what I like and what I don't like. I've just been doing what I've been doing. And I thought it meant I had to start from scratch, but actually it just meant I had to remember what actually does light me up, what actually does make me happy. And even things I think sometimes as well, like, I'm like, oh, I love to paint, but because I don't paint, or didn't paint when I was working or whatever, it's like, well, do you really love it? Because if you really loved it, you'd make the time for it. And that's such a trap that you could fall into, and also that people can put that onto you as well. I've heard that a lot from other people.
Yeah.
I've probably said it in the past as well. Like, if you have a hobby, then, you'll make time for it if you love it. It's quite frankly not true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but that's your little person in your mind. That's the person that's at one with society and still wants to be possibly on the corporate ladder, on the the rituals and routines, because they think that that's going to make you successful. That's your fear. I think that's your fear. That's the fear talking. And the cynic, we all have that inner critic, right? And they are the biggest enemy. And yes, they are fueled by other people. But very much so, I have that where I sit sometimes and I'm like, I can't write a song. I'll try and force myself, and I'll sit down with my pen and my guitar and I will try and write something because I think I should, because otherwise I have nothing to show for my day. And that's not where it, like, the creativity comes from and the authenticity. It doesn't come from just doing things because you should. And that's why that's incongruent, I guess, with music. That's why structure is incongruent with music. That's why saying I'm just taking a year.
Yeah.
You can't do that, because that is not, it lives within you. It's a living organism, and you can't put timelines on things. But we love to do that. And our critics love to do that because we've learned to do that.
100%. And I think it can be reassuring as well sometimes if you set yourself these, like, timelines of, like, right, I'm going to have achieved this by this date. Because then it's like, oh, well, I'm giving myself, some structure and some limits around what I can and can't achieve. But actually, you're completely right. You'll achieve the most when you take those limits away.
Yes. But removing the limits is very hard because it is so ingrained. I had read a quote the other day, and this is not to say not to have goals, because absolutely have those goals. And if timelines work for you, perfect, like, great, do your thing. And that's the point, I guess, is everyone does it in their own way. But I read a quote that basically summarizes this very succinctly. Let's see if I can remember it. It was something to do with, so not word for word, but it was something to do with, it doesn't matter about it's not how fast you get there, it's the direction that's important. So basically saying, it doesn't matter when you achieve the things you want to achieve. If you're moving in the right direction, that's what's important.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to learn that.
Yeah.
And that I talked a lot about my fears around my age with being a musician and how the music industry is quite targeted towards younger musicians, talking like 16, 17. Partly, I think, because they're more vulnerable and they can sort of mold them into who they want them to be, these big sort of organizations and labels, right? And partly because I suppose in those sort of time periods, generally up until maybe now in recent times, that's when perhaps you haven't been you've had more time to yourself. You haven't been wanting to start families or having to have houses or mortgages or things. So for a multitude of reasons. So that is something that I have been concerned with, which is why I wanted to pursue the music when I did, because I thought, well, my body clock is ticking and I better do it now. And that's why I say I'll give myself a year, because in my mind it did matter how quickly I achieved it.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm starting to put more emphasis on just the direction I'm wanting to go in. And if it is, then that's fine. Like, I'm making my peace with the fact it's not going to happen quickly.
I completely agree with that, because in my career, what I was working at, I worked as a customer success manager. It's like an account manager, or you just basically work with clients for a company. I progressed very quickly within that in the course of like 2.5 years I was doing it, which is not a long time, but I did not stay at one level for 2.5 years. I basically jumped every 6 months within that period of time, which was great. And I was feeling like I was achieving the world and like, oh my God, especially because I started my career so late. Yeah. Talking of timelines. Yeah. I didn't get my first full-time corporate job until I was 24. So it already felt like I was trying to catch up. Sure. And I caught up very fast to the point where I was like, saying to people, I was like, no, I actually feel like I'm exactly where I should be now. Like, I feel like I'm at the level I should be for a 27-year-old in their career, until I realised I'm on completely the wrong path, going in completely the entirely wrong direction. I have no interest in continuing down that path whatsoever. The end goal of that path gives me nothing, no joy, nothing. Why? Why am I on it? Like, get off. And that's what I did, got off. I'd rather start again at zero than keep going down the wrong path. There's just no point.
I honestly think, okay, now we could be getting into like conspiracies. I don't think it's as like staunch as a full-on blown conspiracy from the government, but I do think that it benefits society in general for you to be on those, to be doing what we think we should be doing, to be doing that. Like, you know, if everyone opened their minds and thought, I could do anything, I think that people's fear would be the world would fall apart. I disagree. I think actually it would be the most amazing place. But it's almost, I don't know if you felt this, right? Because when I opened up my mind to other possibilities of how I could live my life, it affected me in more ways than one. I didn't just think, okay, cool, I could do anything. I thought about, okay, I could be anything. I could, you know, you start to realize that you do have choice and free will.
Yeah.
And I think some people think that's dangerous. I think people are afraid and intimidated and daunted by people who have open minds and believe in trying out more things than just the way that they deem is the appropriate done thing to do.
Oh, I think 100%.
That people are threatened by change.
Yeah. I think what it is as well, it's like when there becomes like a status quo of how things are done, when you challenge that in any way, it's like, oh my god, like for one, if you're doing it, should I be doing it? Is oftentimes a thought. People, this is such a common phenomenon, and we've all done it in the past for somebody else, and it doesn't make you a bad person. That's not what we're saying, like, at all, but it is the truth of the matter that, like, if you see somebody do something and you secretly are somewhat jealous of the fact that they are, and I say jealous, but what I mean is, like, you know, if you know, you quit your job to become a musician, there's somebody out there working as a lawyer or something who has an incredible singing voice and would love to be a musician, and they're like, oh, she's doing that, like, why? It's because they secretly have that dream too, but they don't have the courage to go after it because it doesn't fit into the status quo, and therefore it is scary. And, like, you know, when I tell people, like, quit my job, the first things people say, like, how are you going to pay your rent? Because they're worried about how they would do it if they did something like that. Yeah. I'm not worried. You don't know my financial situation. Yeah. Like, I could have won the lottery 2 years ago and be a flipping millionaire for all you know.
Did you?
God, I wish. But,
would
like,
you share some?
Of course
would you take me on a little cruise somewhere?
I definitely
would. Let's go to the Bahamas.
That would be nice.
Awesome.
But genuinely, it's so true. Like, people ask me, how are you going to do this? You do not know anything about me.
But it is that fear that the fear that they would have that they're putting onto you. Like you say, that is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And I had people concerned, or would be coming from a place of concern.
Yes.
When I told them I was quitting my job to be a musician, friends that had said, I don't think you should do this. Like, I wouldn't support you doing this. I think you need to think about how you're going to do it. And I'm like, that is your anxiety.
Yes.
And yes, it's been my anxiety too, but I just decided I wouldn't let it
Don't put it onto me.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Don't project your insecurity onto me because you don't understand, because you are not me. And you don't have my brain, you don't have my bank account details, you don't have my goals in life, you don't dream the way that I dream. So how do you know what is best for me? You just don't.
You just don't.
No. Well,
I think that is a good place to
I think on that,
you just don't know me. I don't even know me. How do you know me? Oh my goodness, next podcast, life crisis. Who am I? Identity. Ooh.
Honestly though, that is a good place to leave it, but that was a really good conversation today.
Yes, thank you.
So interesting and
reassuring that you think the same and you feel the same.
Yeah, as two Funemployed girlies, it is not easy to do this. But
no, for sure. And I think if we were sitting here and saying to people, follow your dreams, like, it doesn't matter about money and finance, and like, we're not. But that's the point, right? I am in no position to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. You have to find that yourself, and you have to learn yourself enough to know what's right, and try and quieten the inner critic, but the other external voices that are trying to keep you at bay, because it's just fear.
Definitely.
It's just fear.
And there's like this quote, and it's like, choose your hard. It's like, you know, working a really tough job and you know, whatever, that's hard. Quitting your job and having no idea what you're doing, that's hard. It's like, you know, going to the gym and trying to lose weight or get fit or whatever is hard. But also, like, you know, being uncomfortable in your skin and, you know, like, you know, being unhealthy in your body and having health issues, that's hard. Like, you've got to choose
which one you're prepared to deal with.
You're more prepared for.
Yeah.
And not everyone's on the same wavelength. And that's totally okay.
And thank God, because the world would not be functioning if everyone wanted to do exactly the same thing.
Definitely not.
You need podcasts and musicians and art and finance and corporations. You need it all.
Exactly.
That's the point. You need it all.
Yeah.
So you can
just
can
make
find
sure
other
that
paths.
what you're doing is giving you joy and not bringing you down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well,
high five.
That's all from us today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Utterly Unfiltered.
Pretty light conversation.
Come back next week on Monday and make sure you like, follow, subscribe,
share,
comment, do all those things, please, because, you know, we're a very new podcast and we'd love to have your support. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
That is you signing out.
You signing out.